So I'm standing here in a park in Smiths Falls. You can see part of the Rideau Canal along one side here. There's some dammed flow of water on the other side. You may be able to hear the flow of water there. And I wanted to demonstrate something in this park, which is sort of the concept of looking from a distance and picking out your kind of gut instinct as to what you see. So it's a mixed mode grass treed park. There's some spots where on the final map I'll have individual trees, and there's some spots where I'll have scattered trees, and I could walk around and individually plot them all. From the lidar, I'll show that here. You can see where each of the trees are. So I've got lots of good quality data. I could individually map every tree. But how do I decide where to map the individual trees and where to map scattered trees or white or some other way of kind of mapping in a simplified manner, mapping the group of trees together? Short answer here is that you're going to use your kind of that first impression, that gut instinct, and from a distance. If I'm standing amongst a group of trees, it becomes really easy to count them all. But as an orienteer, and I'm running through this park, I'm going to be looking, as far away as I can into the distance, and I'm going to be running towards that, especially in a simple area like this. Unless there's a control there might be a control on an individual tree or whatever, but let's say I'm just running through this area. As an orienteer, I'm looking as far ahead as I can, and I'm navigating to that. I'm not bothering to read all the individual trees. So as a mapper, I want to think like that. So I'm going to look through here, and I'm going to scan through. Okay, so on this side here, in this kind of gravel area, okay, that is clearly a single tree. I see that. I count that as a tree. There, I see another tree, quite distinct from the other one. I don't say, oh, there's two trees. Well, there are two trees. I don't see there's a group of a small number of trees. Here, I see one small one. And then in the background, I see three trees together. I don't see one tree, two tree, three trees. I see three trees, or I see a small group of trees. They're little cedars by the water's edge, right? So that probably close enough together. I'd map that as white or scattered trees. You could really use either depending on how much space there is for that on the map. So I would, based on my drafting of the map, is where I'd make a decision on that, but that's not going to be three individual trees. I look here, I see one, and as I'm walking through the park here, I see another one kind of in the middle of my video screen here, and then there's one to the right of that. It's got a picnic table leaned up against it, but I look at that and I clearly see two trees amongst a bunch of yellow rather than a group, right? So I'm using that first instinct. Over here, I see four trees, two on this side of the roadway, two on the other side. I can pretty easily pick them out as I'm going. If I look into the kind of middle distance of the park here, I see a bunch of trees. That's my gut instinct. I don't see, oh wait, one, two. I'd have to count them, right? It doesn't come immediately to mind how many there are. That is a good indication that I should be mapping them as just a group of trees. In fact, I would have counted them wrong. It looks like there's actually 5 trees. 2 of them on the right are pretty close together. Right, so again, I'm going with that gut instinct. If I can easily go, oh, immediately there's 3 without having to actually count them, then that might be a good indication that I should map them individually. I'm looking now to my left across this roadway as I'm kind of strolling through the park here, and I see a bunch of trees. Right, I could count them, but I would have to take time and invest that mental energy in counting them, whereas I don't need to do that. There's no real value to doing that when I can show that there's a bunch of trees there, which is what I instinctively saw there. I can map a bunch of trees as scattered trees or white. In this case, it's pretty clear to me that they're far enough apart that I would use the scattered trees and not white. It's a big enough area, and there's clear kind of parkland grass, mowed grass between the trees as well. It's not forested. In this corner here, I see another 2 trees. I'm not having to count them. I just see the 2, and so therefore worth mapping individually. The same concept applies in forested scenarios where, let's say, you've got boulders versus boulder fields, that kind of situation. Try to use that kind of gut instinct. Am I counting them, or do I immediately go, oh, there's 2, there's 3, maybe there's 4, but typically above 4, you're not going to say, oh, there's a bunch of them. If they're spaced apart enough and you do see them kind of not as a big group, but as individual boulders, then you can put them in even if they're more than 4, say. But typically, if they're more than 3 or 4, and they're close enough together, you're going to call them a group. But I would look at them and go in that instinct, am I counting them, or am I just going there's 2, there's 3? And that's what I would use to draw that distinction, because that's how an orienteer is going to look at them, and they're going to be picking that information up really, really quickly.